Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, and for whomever is tuning in here, I am happy to do a little presentation. And my presentation, what I want to do is talk about one of the documents of Vatican II, a very important one called Lumen Gentium. It's one of the dogmatic constitutions, so it has a certain weight to it, like Verbum Dei, the one on the nature of revelation. Is very, very important too. But this is about the church as the light of the nations, Lumen Gentium. And we're the Gentium. We are the non-Jews. So it's the light to everyone. Um, and it has a fascinating history. Remember, the council opened in 1962, and there were 4 sessions, each of them about 10 weeks long. In the interim time, which is the majority of many months, and usually in the fall of the year, like October to mid-October to December or something like that. And then the rest of the year was spent haggling about the documents, having committees work on stuff, create drafts, try to keep in touch, and then everybody came back and they had things to look at. But in 1959, John the 23rd called the council in January. And it was a bit of a jolt because there were people who said that there would never be another council needed because 100 years or so before that, at Vatican I, 1869 to 1870, in a very different world at that time, after a lot of disrespect for the Pope, the movement of nationalism in the Enlightenment in Europe, church felt very besieged. One Pope was captured by Napoleon, captured and put in prison for 4 years and died. And then the next Pope was also in prison for a while, but survived, got out. So, I mean, it was a way in which things we would have trouble even imagining now. So the focus of Vatican I was on papal authority. And then they were going to go to the nature of the church, which is the context for papal authority. Think of papal authority as a kind of focal point within a larger circle. And that would be the bishops and even a larger circle, the church as a whole, and then even beyond. So the Franco-Prussian War interrupted the council. And for a lot of reasons, you might say, well, Franco-Prussian War, why would that have done that? Well, France was trying to defend the papacy in various ways, and there were all kinds of problems. So they really couldn't continue. And they said, okay, we're going to stop and we'll take a pause. They thought they were going to restart it, but they didn't. And that meant that they had a very strong statement on the authority of the Pope, but not about the authority of bishops as a whole. And it looked like the bishops as a whole ended up being almost like sacristans, and the Pope was everything. And from that time, 1870 on, the danger of overemphasizing papal authority, apart from its proper context, the larger context of the church itself, was very great. So Pope John, a historian, actually called the council, and it met for these 4 years, 62, 3, 4, and 65. And it ended in December, on December 8th, Feast of the Immaculate Conception in 1965. So I'm just going to give you some highlights from that particular document, and I'm going to keep this to 10 minutes. So first of all, the order of the chapters. All kinds of material was sent to the Vatican in 1959 to 1962. How are we going to handle all this from everybody? So John understandably asked the people that work at the Vatican to put it together in units and so on. And then they pretty well presented. Most of these people were involved in the day-to-day bureaucracy of the church. The curia is what it would be called. And people that are trying to run a shop don't like change. I understand that quite well. And as a consequence, they kind of put a whole document in front of the group in the fall of 1962. And the vote was, we're going to start fresh. We're going to start fresh. And it went through so many different reiterations, so many revisions, and so on and so forth. But let me just give you one dramatic example. The one that was proposed by the Curia had the hierarchy first, and then the hierarchy first, then the church itself, and then the laity. And by the time they finally came to an agreement, it was reversed. They decided to start with the mystery of God. And that's a very important thing, the mystery of God, the mystery of revelation. And the way the council went, particularly when you look at the document on Revelation, is revelation is not a series of statements, dogmas, doctrines. It's an encounter with God. Or as Pope Benedict liked to say, it was the moment of conversion is an event. It's a person, and it's one that you meet this way, and it's extraordinary. So the very first reality that when you're talking about the church is to realize it has to do with God. The second one was the people of God. The people of God. Mystical Body was an encyclical published in 1943 by Pius XII. It was a very important image. It was one image of the church. Another image is the head and the body. The mystical body is there. And this one in particular, the notion of the people of God is more of a journey. They're on a pilgrimage. It's kind of like we're trying to make our way. So when you have a mystical body, it's hard to figure out where sin is. If you have people of God, well, people of God make mistakes. They do stupid things. We all do. And so that opened up that reality of the human. And then the third one was the hierarchy. The hierarchy, like the people of God, in the presence of the mystery of God and the mystery of who God is, try together on this journey to articulate what the faith means and so on. So that's a very important thing. A second thing I want to mention to you was that it talked about everybody by baptism is called to holiness. Up until that time, there was a temptation, especially after the Council of Trent, where religious life was not accepted by the reformers, Luther and others. Married clergy came in, and as a consequence, the church tended to emphasize what was being denied. So they emphasized the value of the priesthood and the religious life. And it almost seemed like the priesthood, and particularly religious life, lived the counsels, poverty, chastity, obedience, and the ordinary laity lived the commandments. So it's a higher degree of holiness by living poverty, chastity, and obedience. My oldest sister with 7 children once said to me, "Yeah, you live the poverty. You vow poverty. I live it with my all my kids." So it's really a kind of a not an appreciation of the lay life. So instead of saying like, and you still get, Father, your prayers are more important. Pray for me. I want to say we're all called to holiness. Don't say that, but people do. I think you can understand why. But the notion was all are called. The second one, instead of emphasizing the priesthood, it also emphasized everyone who is baptized into the priesthood, the prophetic dimension of Jesus Christ, and the kingly dimension, which is taking responsibility for the life of the church by baptism, not just ordination, by baptism. So that's a profound shift and a very important one. And it kind of discombobulated a number of people after Vatican II when they heard this is, wait a minute, everybody's called to holiness. I don't need to be a priest or religious to be holy, so on and so forth. But we know with the sexual abuse scandals, there's no assurance. We're all broken, and we're all called to holiness. So that's there. Another one is I would mention in a very striking way. If you go to paragraphs 14 to 16, I've gone over this with students when I've taught this. There is a statement about the Church of Christ subsists in the Catholic Church. It doesn't say the Church of Christ is the Catholic Church, which admits that there are elements of the church outside of the Catholic Church. Protestants have truths of the faith and so on, not to the same fullness with the sacraments, with the hierarchy, with various dimensions of the saints and so on. There's a much richer presentation. I wouldn't be a Catholic if I didn't believe this, than there is in number. But we can learn things from different Protestant churches. We can learn how to sing from Lutherans, learn more about social justice from Methodists. Some of the more Reformation churches about social witness and even martyrdom. So these are things that I think really important to realize. This debate out subsistis. It's not, the Church of Christ cannot be simply equated with the Catholic Church. It includes more than that, but it also says the Catholic Church represents a certain fullness of the revelation of Jesus Christ. So that's another point. A couple of others briefly. I'm already at 10 minutes, so I'll go on. One of them that they mentioned that I think is really very important is the common priesthood of all the faithful. I mentioned the holiness. I would like to say also was the big battle about collegiality, and I'll end at 11, 12 minutes. Collegiality, college, is the notion of a college of everybody coming together. And so it was said very clear that the bishops together with the Pope have a very formal, powerful teaching authority, including the possibility of declaring a dogma. So in the background was the issue of concilium, the Council of 1415, where there are three popes. What do we do now? The popes, this is crazy. How are we going to deal with this? They made rules about every 10 years the pope was required to call a council and so on. It almost looked like it so weakened the authority of the pope so that it wouldn't do bad things that it got out of whack. And every pope after that, through the Council of Trent and through Vatican I, they're always worried in the back of the head that the bishops might want to take off individually. Vatican II addressed that. They addressed it under the idea of collegiality. It's a fantastic document. It means a great deal. It still needs to be studied and understood, but I hope that might whet your appetites to take a look at it. Thanks for listening.